Hi everyone, welcome to yet another Tiago Tuesday Talks, a video series where I answer the questions that you drop in the comment section below. When do you think you'll hit 500k on your main channel? I think it could take like a few months, but hopefully before the end of the year. Do you think LEGO will rehire you as a LEGO designer? There would be strong possibilities if I decided to apply again, I guess. But yeah, unless I do that, LEGO would have no reason to rehire me, so... Yeah. Do you can speak Spanish? I do understand Spanish. Speaking Spanish, not so much. Un poquito. When LEGO brings back idea sets, do they still give 1% profits to the original fan designer? I sure hope they do. That would be like reasonable to do from LEGO. And I see no reason why they shouldn't do it, so I would assume yes, though I don't know this for sure. When you lived in Denmark as a set designer, did you live in Billund or in a city nearby like Vejle? And how was your experience living there? Yeah, I lived in Vejle. We thought that moving there to Billund would be very boring because there's not a whole lot to do in Billund, aside from, you know, LEGO and Legoland and, you know. I think nowadays it's changed a little bit. There's a lot more shopping options and dining options, but back then not a whole lot, so we decided to live in Vejle. And the experience there was quite fine. It was like a decently sized Lego city. It was a decently sized city, at least for my taste. We could go anywhere, pretty much anywhere, just by walking, which was fine with me, and there were a lot more shopping options and things to do and dining. So it was fine, and then the commute there from Vejle to Billund was around, 35 minutes-ish. Public transportation also worked really fine, so I had no issues with living there. It was actually really good. Do you like Rock Raiders? That was an amazing team. Unfortunately, I didn't have any LEGO sets from Rock Raiders, but I remember clearly drooling over the LEGO catalogs that had some Rock Raiders in them. The color scheme was amazing. It had like teal elements, something that I had never seen before, and they had these gigantic drills and stuff, so it was a very cool theme. Unfortunately, I didn't have any LEGO sets from that. Unfortunately. What was it like at your first day at LEGO? It was kind of a magical feeling of sorts, because in a way I was feeling like, oh my god, I actually made it into LEGO, which was like a childhood dream of mine, so I felt very accomplished by that. And then they took me to the Creator 3-in-1 area that back in the day was next to the Creator Expert area. And there were guys like Mike Psyche and Jamie Berard there, so I was feeling like a bit starstruck, honestly, because Jamie Berard back in the day was like designing a lot of sets, especially the modular buildings. Nowadays he isn't designing as much. But he's still a bit of a star in the US, at least, because he's hosting the LEGO Masters. But yeah, I was a bit starstruck. And then I was taken to my desk as well, and it was huge. And there were like a bunch of boxes, LEGO boxes for me to open and build as part of my very first tasks at LEGO, which was just like build the sets and come up with alternative models. So yeah, but I think the main thing about it was like, wow, I made it. So it was very special. How do you report your activity to the Portuguese financial institutions? Do you have to open a company to report earnings and such? How does it all work? Yeah, I do report my earnings to finances or the finance institution. So I do pay my taxes and social security. So yeah, everything is within the law. And I don't want any troubles with law and finances, so yeah, I keep everything straight, but my accountant takes care of all of that, so yeah. How commonly do LEGO designers use simulation to determine structural integrity and mechanical functions for the sets they're designing? Is there a specific in-house tool for it? There's a variety of tests that LEGO designers do to test the integrity of the models. One of them is the oven test. And to see how fragile the elements are or the sets are, because after being in the oven, the LEGO builds tend to be quite fragile, and that's a very good way to determine where there are weak points on the build, so they should be reinforced later on. For sets that have functions, sometimes it is required to do robot tests. So let's say there's like a lever or there's a function that will be used often in a Lego set, then the sets will be put into a robot test that will be testing out the function for hours without hand, again, to see if the sets are sound or not, or if they need like restructuring or being remade or redesigned in another way. So yeah, there's a couple of things that Lego designers do to ensure that customers get the best possible Lego sets they could have. How long does it take for a designer to finish designing a set for production? The design part of a Lego set is usually around maybe 1.5 months to 2 months, maybe 3 months for bigger Lego sets. So I would say around that time, 1.5 to 2 months once the design is started and from start to finish of the design. Obviously the designs take a lot longer to go from start to finish. There was like a concept phase, brainstorming phase, and there's also lots of processes that happen after a Lego set is designed. So yeah, but for the most part, design wise, 1.5, 2 months, maybe 3 months for larger Lego sets, maybe even more. Do you have plans on doing more tutorials like back in the days, or maybe some techniques highlight review kind of thing? Tutorials, I don't think so, not as much as I did back then. I will oftentimes do, well, not oftentimes, but every now and then I'll do the piece highlight videos or illegal building techniques and stuff like that, so I do plan on doing more of those. But as for tutorials, I don't think so. Maybe as shorts in a different channel, but I have so many different channels nowadays that it will be hard to handle yet another one. So the short answer is no, not at the moment, at least for tutorials. What is your opinion about Lego themes that rely on digital components like video, Hidden Side and Super Mario? Two of the ones that you mentioned are actually some sort of flops, you know, they were retired really early, like the video and Hidden Side, but surprisingly Super Mario is strong, still staying strong, I feel, with Lego and more releases coming up. So I think it's a good thing for Lego to do, because it is a very technological world we live in at the moment. Kids are always exposed to, you know, phones and tablets and whatnot, and in order for Lego to stay relevant in those areas, I think they do need to try and do some of these experiences. Some of them are successful, others aren't as much, but I think it's a good thing that Lego should be doing and keep doing and trying. Although it's not an easy task to do and to manage to do perfectly. What are the differences regarding the in-house software compared to softwares like Studio? Back in my day, Lego used to use Maya, which is a 3D software, and there were some plugins, in-house plugins for Maya, so that we could build the models digitally. And that's the main difference, at least back then. I think now they changed softwares, but I'm really not sure. Though the way they work is very similar, you know, it's a digital environment and a 3D digital environment where designers have to place bricks down to build their models. Very much like we do as fans using softwares like Studio. So there's really not a big difference. Do you ever think we will ever get Star Trek sets? I personally would love to see the USS Enterprise. I would love to, honestly. I think there are some very interesting ships in the Star Trek universe, but I think as long as Lego is working with Star Wars, and assuming that Star Wars and Star Trek are competing licenses, I would say that it's very unlikely that Lego will do Star Trek sets, at least while they're still doing Star Wars sets. So yeah, no luck there, buddy. What do you think about people buying Lego to expose them instead of playing with them? I think that's the beauty of Lego, you know, people can do anything they want with their Lego sets, so if people like to display them, so be it. People like to play with them, it's also fine, you know. There's lots of different people with lots of different tastes in regards to Lego. I, for one, love the building experience, and I couldn't care less about displaying Lego sets, That's why I oftentimes will, put them into the bin of pieces and never look at them again. So for me, it's the building experience. For some people, it's like the finished model. For some people, it's like playing, and some people like to display them. So I don't really mind. You do whatever you like with your Lego sets. It's fine. Do you like the Lego movies? I do. The first Lego movie was amazing. Was a completely different movie experience from anything else that I had experienced up until that point. And it was something new, completely new that was never seen before. Then there were the movies that came after that, like the Lego Movie 2, Batman movie, and the Ninjago movie or movies. And I don't like those as much, but for sure the first one was like a whole new experience that I really, really enjoyed back then. Can you remember the feelings of the moment you were told you got the job at Lego? What was that phone call like? Yeah, this is a good one. Congrats, by the way, Josh, for your BTS Lego Ideas set. This is a fan designer of that set. So the phone call was like, I was watching my phone. I was expecting a call because, just a week earlier I had been in the recruitment workshop. So I was looking at my phone, and then I saw this call coming in. And I saw that it was from abroad, but I tried to play it cool, and I answered in Portuguese. Sim, estou, tudo bem? Trying to play it cool, like. And then Andy, my former manager, hi Tiago, and then he proceeded to tell me about the proposition that they had for me, that they were offering me a job at Creator 3-in-1, and I was like always trying to stay cool and relaxed and not like shouting of joy, but inside I was like screaming because I finally made it. I am a Lego designer, or I will be a Lego designer. And I remember that he was like Andy was like telling about the perks of the job and the pay and all of that, and I wasn't even listening at that point. I was just like internally like yeah, but I was like screaming of joy. So yeah, it went like that, me trying to play it cool and not like overreact. And then when I put the phone down, I went outside of work because I was working at a studio back then. I went outside, and then I was just like jumping of joy and screaming and yes! So it was amazing. But while in the call, I was trying to play it cool and like be the relaxed kind of guy that, oh yeah, working for Lego, yeah, I could do that. Are Lego designers informed about how successful their design sets is? Is there an incentive for something that sells amazingly? Are there projections your design has to surpass? Well, this is something that is highly confidential. Like, Lego designers aren't allowed to discuss numbers with public, but yeah, there were like weekly meetings where the marketing team, I think, would tell us how the sets were doing sales-wise. So yeah, designers were aware. You feel good if a Lego set you designed is performing well. And like every major company, there's like KPIs, like personal KPIs, if you're working well and you meet your deadlines and all of that. So there's some criteria that will award you a better bonus, yearly bonus, if you do your KPIs right. But it's not directly connected to sales. So there's that. There's like a personal gratification of knowing, yes, okay, I made a good set that is selling really well. And there were like internal competitions to see who would be at the top of the Creator 3-in-1 top sales, for instance. That would be like a cool topic of discussion amongst the designers there. But yeah, and are there projections your design has to surpass? There are expectations, I would assume, because it's a company and it needs to sell. When LEGO sends you a LEGO set review, are you supposed to return them? No, that's actually one of the perks of being in the LEGO Ambassador Network and getting the review copies. You get to keep them, though you can't sell them, so yeah. They take a lot of space really fast, but no, you don't need to return them. Any reason in particular you don't focus too much on older sets? I like to keep the content relevant, and that's why I focus on recent releases. Also, like the LEGO Ambassador Network isn't sending like old LEGO sets to review, nor am I interested in that, honestly, because we've come a long way in the recent years with new elements and new building techniques being discovered. So I think that I wouldn't find enjoyment about building old LEGO sets because they're completely outdated in terms of building techniques, at least in my opinion. And me being something that values building experience a lot above anything else, I can see the value on older LEGO sets and what they did achieve back then, but nowadays I feel like it wouldn't be as interesting to me to build and review older LEGO sets. There is a lot of hate online when people say Legos. What's your opinion about that? Does anyone at LEGO cares? I think people at LEGO care a lot, you know, because it's like an internal thing. It's supposed to be LEGO bricks and not Legos. So I understand the hate, but at the same time it's okay, guys, chill. People can say Legos, it's not harmful in any way, but you know, super hardcore adult fans of Lego will be like, oh, you cannot say that. For me it's kind of okay, but I tend not to say Legos, because, you know, Lego fanboy and all of that, and I'm a fan, so I try to stick by the rules, and I cringe a little bit, and I'm like, ugh, that guy said Lego, so ugh. So yeah, at least when I'm doing interviews and stuff like that, interviewers usually don't know better, so they'll be like saying Legos left and right, and I make sure to say, well, when this interview goes live, or if it's an article or a written interview, I make sure to tell them, do not write Legos, that's not okay, but yeah. What LEGO mock are you most proud of? Not official LEGO set. There was this, how did I call it? It was Mobile Lab something? I can't remember. It was like using illegal techniques like bending the bricks. I made this huge wheel-like vehicle that was motorized, so yeah, it actually like rode on the table with a remote control, so I was very proud of that. And it actually got featured by Gizmodo, this nerdy gadget type blog. It probably is a thing still. And yeah, back then I was really proud of that one and the fact that it got highlighted on Gizmodo. So yeah. When you worked for LEGO, what was the design process of a LEGO set? This gets asked a lot, so let's break it down really briefly. So a LEGO set starts with a brainstorm. There is a brainstorm to decide what, let's say in Creator 3-in-1, there's usually like one time a year where designers and managers and all of that will brainstorm ideas to figure out what will be the next wave of products for Creator 3-in-1. So there is a big brainstorm session, there's like building lots of concept models. Those get taken into a showroom where it gets shown to higher-ups in LEGO to get validation from them and decide, okay, these are the sets that we are designing. Then the sets get assigned to LEGO designers, and then LEGO designers start working on them. Most designers will build with bricks, some designers will build digitally first and then with bricks. And then there's lots of loops in regards to the designs. There's quality meetings where people on the quality meeting committee will tell that this is weak, this is strong, let's go this way, let's go that way. And then there's also the building instructions people involved. There's weekly design meetings where we can share our progress with our fellow co-workers. And then they give feedback, and then we change that or we don't change that. And then yeah, after the design is done, there's like a quality meeting that will officially end the building design phase of the model, and from there the building instructions team will pick up on the digital models that we also designed, and then marketing, then packaging, then yeah, like simply put, that's how it is. Do you have a white whale set? What is it? Like I was saying before, I don't feel like really attached to old Lego sets because I feel they're completely outdated nowadays. But I do like these technique, like the good technique, not the technique that we have nowadays with the beams. The good Lego technique back in the day with like the Technic bricks. And there was this white Technic space shuttle of sorts that had some functions and micro motors, so maybe I would say that is my white whale Lego set, but I don't think I would go out of my way to get it because, like I said, I feel that designs back in the days are completely outdated when compared to designs made these days. So yeah, and I do have the NASA Space Shuttle from Creator Expert or Icons. So yeah, but probably that one. Do you think that Monorails will revive someday? Maybe. Who knows? I know this is something that fans would want really hard to come back at LEGO, and I guess LEGO did have the opportunity to do it in the 90th anniversary, and they didn't. Maybe they will do it in the 100th anniversary. Who knows? LEGO could do it. Let's see if they decide to do it or not. I'm a big fan of LEGO Classic Space and Castle, having grown up in the 80s and 90s. Do you think they'll ever bring those back? Why did they abandon them in a proper way and not just as anniversary specials? I think LEGO fans should be happy about having, you know, the Castle and the Galaxy Explorer and all of those specials, because I don't think it's very likely that LEGO would bring those as full-fledged themes. They did, for instance, bring back like pirate themes back in the day, like 10 years ago or something, and everyone was complaining about them. So maybe LEGO won't do it anymore. But I would say that you should be happy about the releases that you have, expecting not to get anything else on top of it, honestly. Because, you know, for Classic Space, LEGO is still doing Star Wars and will be doing Star Wars for a long time to come, so I don't think there's like space in shelves to have another competing sci-fi-ish theme or like space-related theme. As for Castle, maybe it isn't relevant anymore, but you know, there's Lion Knight's Castle and people should be happy about that. But I don't think they will return as like full-fledged themes. How long do you think the LEGO Star Wars elements will go? As long as there are characters to turn into LEGO Star Wars elements, I think Star Wars will keep doing them. Even now, like just a few days ago, March 1st, 3 new ones were released. And I was looking at the LEGO website, and there's like 7 Star Wars elements selling at the moment on the website at one given time. So I think LEGO Star Wars will keep doing them for as long as they want to. And if people keep buying them, so yeah, that's all there is to it. What do you do with your minifigures? I don't see them display. Where do you store them after you take it apart? I store them away. I'm very mindful of like sun damage, you know, the discoloring of LEGO sun and UV light, so I don't want my minifigures damaged in that way, and you never know, they could be valuable in like a few years for some weird reason or some weird show. So I keep them safe. Not that I'm planning on selling them, at least at the moment, but yeah. I want to keep them in pristine condition, so yeah. Usually don't see them in display because I take them away and store them away. When creating a random classic brick box, who decides which bricks are in and in which color? Do you get pre-selected pieces and just start to model a thing? Thank you. I did design a classic model, and the way that went was I started designing the animals first. Oh, actually, here's the box. This is one that I designed for LEGO Classic. So I first started with the animals, and then after I was done with the animals, it was time to pick some extra elements. And so I looked at the pieces that I used for the animals, and then I tried to include pieces that would make the numbers of pieces even. Usually in Classic, I think there's this consideration of not including like odd number of pieces inside, so because that can mess things up for people who are trying to build stuff out of their pieces of the Classic boxes. So evening out all of the piece numbers, and from there, like just looking at the color palette and trying to see, okay, this set doesn't have a lot of these colors, so let's try to pick some bricks in these colors. Also in the animal box, it was a consideration, like it was supposed to be a box for people to build animals, so trying to include useful pieces that people could use to build their own animals. So that was the consideration, but the people who decide which bricks go in there are actually the designers. It's part of the design task at hand. And I can say for myself that it was really challenging actually designing the Classic box and getting to decide which pieces go inside. I also tried to include like cool pieces in rarer colors that didn't show up in a lot of Lego sets, thinking about Lego fans would want some of those pieces as well. But yeah, it's mostly the Lego designers who decide all of that. What is the most boring, tedious process for a Lego designer when creating a Lego set? Back in the day, the most tedious process was like getting the pieces to build several copies of the models that we were designing, because copies were needed for different departments inside the company. So sometimes we had to handpick the pieces ourselves to build the different copies. When I was leaving, there were like teams like actually doing that for the designers, so that designers could save some time there, and they would actually pick the volumes of pieces to build copies of models. But for sure that one was one of the most boring tasks that I had to do back in the day. What would you like to see changed about Lego's direction as a company in the next couple of years? I would like Lego to focus less on the super big Lego sets, you know, $400, $500, $600 releases, and focus on smaller sets like they did in the early days of Creator Expert. You know, you had the modular buildings and the cars and maybe some of the fairground sets, and those would be like $100, $200 at max. So I would love Lego to focus more on smaller Lego sets that offer a lot of value, rather than, you know, making these gigantic releases that not a whole lot of people will be able to afford. How does Lego decide which sets to offer pre-order on? I would actually love to know that myself. I think they did a really smart thing with that Super Star Destroyer, Imperial Star Destroyer, or whatever it is. Let's see. Yeah, the Executor Super Star Destroyer. That's on pre-order right now. I think this is a great move. I don't know how they decide to do it and which sets to do pre-orders on, but I think they should do it a lot more and a lot more often, because this is 2 months away from the release or the expected date that Lego will be shipping this out to people, so there's plenty of time to Lego figure out how many they need to produce. And maybe if they did these two sets like, you know, Black Panther or the Hulkbuster, they wouldn't probably have to do like the major discounts that they needed to do after the release of those sets, because this is a better way to gauge people's interest on a certain Lego set. So I don't know how Lego decides to do that, but I think they should do it a lot more often. How far do you live from the nearest Lego store? Lisbon, I assume. How much do you buy from Lego versus other stores? I live nearby the Lisbon store, so yeah, I won't disclose where, but yeah, I live near Lisbon, and so now that the shop has opened, or the store has opened, I actually do most of my Lego shopping there when I need to buy a Lego set. So I don't even buy from Lego.com anymore, since I have this local Lego store, because whenever I need to do like a review very quickly after the release of a set, something that I didn't get from the Lego Ambassador Network, then I'll usually go there instead of ordering from Lego.com and having to wait like a few days for it to arrive. So that's a good thing, and I really don't buy from other stores, honestly. Every purchase that I make, usually nowadays, it's from the actual Lego store in Lisbon. What is your favorite tutorial that you have made for your YouTube channel? I think the swing the playground swing. It was one of those that I struggled with a lot to find out a really good building technique to do it, and it was something that sat on my shelves for a month or two until I finally figured it out. So I really like that one. Although if you place a minifigure on top of it, it won't hold itself up, but it's but it's a good piece to show at least. It's nice for a display, so do go check that out if you want. And that's it for today's episode, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave your questions down below and I'll try to answer them in the next episode. And yeah, bye.